Vientiane is the capital and largest city of Laos. Comprising the 5 urban districts of Vientiane Prefecture, the city is located on the banks of the Mekong, right at the border with Thailand. Vientiane was the administrative capital during French rule and, due to economic growth in recent times, is now the economic center of Laos. The city had a population of 1,001,477 as of the 2023 census. Vientiane is noted as the home of the most significant national monuments in Laos, Phra That Luang, which is a known symbol of Laos and an icon of Buddhism in Laos. Alola was born in 1970 from the city of Muang Sing, where in his youth he worked as an honorary teacher. She is an extroverted person and likes to be outspoken in any matter. In 1997, she married a man who was a government employee in the field of land and forestry. His name is Kaipo Intavong. The man was 3 years older than his wife. After 8 months of marriage, it turned out that the husband was transferred to Vientiane City, and this forced the wife to quit her job and join Kaipo. With a lot of savings, they bought a luxury house after previously living in the official house provided by the office. Year after year, the couple was unlucky not to be blessed with children. Several IVF programs have not succeeded in giving offspring. Even trying to adopt a child from an orphanage was very difficult. Once, in 2008, they had adopted a child, but when the foster son was already 5 years old, his biological parents came and took him away. They broke the agreement, but Alola and Kaipo can understand the name flesh and blood, and the inner bond is difficult to separate. They are back to living alone in their big house. Because her husband is often out of town for business, Alola keeps herself busy with yoga, aerobics, and joining the community of mothers who are good at cooking but still cool. With so much of their money, this couple built several rented houses spread across 4 points in the suburbs of Vientiane. This is the activity that Alola usually does every day: sports and quoting rent. Her husband even said he would call a household assistant to keep her company at home. He said it was so she wouldn't be lonely. Alola refused. Occasionally her niece was told to stay there if she needed company when she was alone. Until mid-2019. Kaipo proposed to his wife to rent out their 3 rooms at the back near the kitchen so that the house would not be too empty. Besides being able to increase monthly income so that the rooms are not empty and can be taken care of. Alola thought it was a very smart idea. She also made an advertisement on Facebook and on her fence about the rooms for rent, and since then, they have had 3 boarders. The first is a 25-year-old man named Joy who works as a singer at the Moonlight Lounge nightclub. He is very diligent in greeting and always smiling. The second is a 27-year-old girl named Lunani who is originally from Vang Vieng City. She works as a staff at Aeon Leasing Service. This woman is rarely at home and usually leaves for work early in the morning and only comes home after 10 p.m. The third is a 26-year-old quiet young man named Tao. This nerdy-looking guy works as a financial admin at a Chinese food restaurant. They are the ones who later became friends with the couple Alola and Kaipo. If we look at the 3 boarders in the Intavong family's house, they seem to be well-off people. The professions they do are also good enough to survive in the city. But everything changed when entering early to mid-2020. When the pandemic occurred, many aspects of the economy and business faltered during that time. Joy and Tao are no exception. Both nightclubs and restaurants have been severely affected by the reduction in the number of visitors as well as the restrictions on operating hours. The 2 young men continue to work but not as regularly as before, and their salaries have even been cut and suspended. Maybe it didn't affect Lilani so much because the vehicle leasing was still running even during those difficult times, but there were also some of her friends who had their wages cut. For Joy, it's even worse, as the club where he works is now only open once a week and only until 7 p.m. His income dropped dramatically. That's why he asked Alola to give him some time off to pay the rent. But he promised that if he got the money, he would pay it immediately. At first, the woman grumbled and refused Joy's request, but she didn't have the heart to evict him because she saw how difficult things were. Even Tao also joined in the delinquency of paying the room rent because his salary was still being withheld. Being given 1 to 2 months leniency was still okay. But when things didn't get better, it seemed that the Alola began to run out of patience. Joy has not paid rent for 4 months. And on August 15, 2020, Alola told him to leave. But because the young man cried and begged because he didn't know where he would live. Finally, when his husband was at work, Alola told the young man to pay in another way. Joy complied, and this happened several times in the young man's room. But unfortunately, on Friday afternoon, September 11th, 2020, when Kaipo came home from work suddenly, he did not find his wife in the room. He was surprised and tried to ask Lunani, who was on the back porch. The woman pointed to Joy's room, and Kaipo immediately banged on the young man's room very strongly. Then his wife was in there. Kaipo was furious and went on a rampage. He then invited Alola and Joy to the living room and asked them many questions as if the two defendants were on trial. From here, Joy finally confessed that he had been in a relationship with his landlady for a month because he could not pay the rent. At that time, Kaipo immediately expelled the young man, or he would be reported to the police. Joy moved out of there quickly. I don't know how he's doing next. What is certain is that Mr. Kaipo still forgives his wife, who keeps apologizing. A few weeks later, the husband intended to go out of town on business. Kaipo then told his nephew, who was a widow named Noma, to stay at his house to accompany Alola. The woman complied and brought her 4-year-old son to stay there for a few days. Besides, Kaipo felt sorry for Alola if he was alone. There was also a sense of worry that his boarding boy Tao would tease his wife. He hopes his wife has repented after the incident with Joy. Until Saturday, September 26, 2020. Until Saturday, September 26, 2020. At that time, it turned out that Alola saw Lunani leaving the room with a man around 10 p.m. Alola was angry because she didn't like it when a girl brought a man into her room. But instead, Lunani fought back while laughing. I also know what you did with Tao. Joy when Tao was also devoured. This made Alola even angrier. She pulled the girl's hair while grumbling. Noma, who saw this, immediately broke up. At that time, Lunani was also told to clean up her room and get out of there. The girl didn't seem afraid and immediately packed up all her clothes to move. But before that, she said something to the Alola. Be careful, I have footage of you several times entering Tao's room. See you soon. It turns out that Lunani is not playing games because she also has Mr. Kaipo's WhatsApp number. The woman sent the video she mentioned earlier on October 4th, 2020. Of course, this makes the husband emotional and angry. He immediately raged at his wife, who had really crossed the line. All this time, her husband has been working hard to be able to fulfill all the needs of their life, but his wife at home is doing something despicable. They should be grateful for their current life. Even though they are not blessed with children, it does not mean that they can do things that violate religion. Anyway, many words were advised by Mr. Kaipo, who then expelled Tao from their residence. The young man only apologized and said everything that had happened was on the orders and coercion of Alola, so that the debt for the rent payment was considered paid off. 2 weeks after this incident, Mr. Kaipo's heart was completely broken. Somehow he didn't trust his wife anymore. All of Alola's activities related to yoga and anything out there became a suspicion for her husband that his wife was unfaithful. Until then, the old man decided to separate. After 23 years together, he felt unsure about living with his wife. Even with tears in her eyes, it seems that Alola failed to convince Kaipo to give her a second or third chance. And her husband also thought that he was often out of town. He always had to be wary, even though at home there were nephews who stayed overnight, but his wife could still find the opportunity to enter their boarder's room. Too much indeed. On Friday, October 29th, 2020, Alola went to the Aeon leasing where Lulani worked. But because it was noon, the security guard said Lulani was out eating. Alola had waited for about 30 minutes, but the girl didn't show up either. Until then, she intended to go home and saw that there was a small alley next to the leasing building. She tried to go there and saw the back door of the building. It turned out that inside there was a Lulani alone tidying up her makeup. The woman was shocked when she saw her former landlady. She was frightened and tried to close the door. But Alola rushed in and pulled out a knife from the bag to attack the girl, who then screamed loudly. Several other employees appeared and broke them up. Lunani was immediately rushed to the hospital. The woman survived despite several wounds to her back. Meanwhile, Alola was taken to the nearest police station. From the information conveyed by Alola to the authorities, she did feel a grudge against Lulani for being the party that triggered her husband to ask for divorce from her. According to her, Lulani has always had a bad character, likes to come home at night, jump the fence and make noise in her room until the morning. She also found that the girl often consumed excessive alcohol. That's why I've wanted to evict her for a long time. But I feel sorry for her. The opposite was revealed by Lunani. What her landlady said was all made up because it was proven that she did despicable thing. That girl has proof, so don't believe all the old woman's testimony because she was just cornered by being caught doing despicable acts by her husband. Actually, when the incident occurred, Kaipo was in the process of contacting a lawyer to prepare divorce forms. And this incident even convinced the husband that what he was going to do was right. Whereas in the past Alola was a very gentle and loving woman, for some reason since she diligently joined the socialite women at the fitness center, she became strange, rude, and unreasonable. That's why he was angry with his wife and said, "Don't blame Lulani, introspect yourself. If Lunani hadn't reported to me, you would have continued all these despicable actions, right?" And Alola can only be silent. Actually, at that time Alola, represented by a lawyer, tried to negotiate with both Lunani and Mr. Kaipo so that the girl would withdraw her report and resolve. Compensation will be paid by his client for treatment and other immaterial losses. But it seems that Mr. Kaipo forbade Lulani to withdraw her report and let the law take its course. What his wife did was enough to tarnish his reputation, even though his in-laws were angry with him. But the man doesn't care and continues the case so that Alola is punished according to her actions. During the trial, the prosecution also tried to present Joy and Tao as additional witnesses to the court, but both young men were absent and hard to find anywhere. Maybe they are ashamed. Until the results of his trial at the People's Supreme Court on Monday, March 15, 2021, the judge found Alola guilty of level 2 charges, namely deliberately planning to kill Lunani. She was sentenced to 7 years in prison and can be released on bail after serving at least 5 years in prison. A month later, Kaipo and Alola were officially separated and his wife's family was given 2 rented houses in the suburbs of Vientiane. Actually, some people also told Kaipo to sue his wife for misconduct. But he thought, never mind. Hopefully the punishment will teach her a lesson. Who do you think is at fault in this case? Is it the husband who is rarely at home, or is it his wife who takes advantage of the situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you like this video, don't forget to click like and also the share button.